Hey, Taco Tuesday fans, this is Christian Brindle.
And I am Glenn Shelton.
We came together and combined our forces to create something special for insurance agents called Taco Tuesday. Let's taco about insurance. My company, Christian Brindle Insurance Services,
and my company, Lead Heroes,
is here to bring you the latest and greatest news happening in the insurance industry today and eat some tacos while we do it.
If you enjoy the content that we put out on this podcast, feel free to leave us a review or subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes.
Without further ado, let's get into this episode of Taco Tuesday. About it. All right, I think we are live. Just confirming in the group here that I can see it. And here we go. Hey guys, what's going on? Hope everybody's having a great day. I know a lot of you I saw literally a few hours ago with the Coach Michael Burt stream, but Taco Tuesday must go on. Glenn is not here. A lot of you saw his post a few hours ago about how, he's got struck with the Rona, and our thoughts are with Glenn. He's missed, and we hope to have him feeling better soon and back next week. But today, guys, Zach Munger was nice enough to come on and kind of take Glenn's place as a guest host for the week. So Zach, thank you for being here and welcome. How you doing?
Thank you for having me. And Glenn, we're thinking of you. Sending you prayers. Feel better soon. Get back in your chair because I know you're going to feel more comfortable here than I am. But hey, my wife brought me a taco so I could actually do this right. So got a couple of them.
All right. So
excited to be here. Thank you, Christian.
Let's start off the right way on this, Zach. What kind of tacos do you have?
Well, it wasn't a planned thing. You literally reached out to me. She happened to be on her way home. She was off today. So it's just Taco Bell. And I think I asked for Taco Supreme, but these look like just good old meat, cheese, and lettuce. Now, I did ask for Hot and Diablo, and she came through. There's a whole bunch of Hot and Diablo sauce, so at least I'll have extras to put on, pizza or whatever later. But right down the road from us is like this great little local Mexican joint, and chips and salsa and cheese dip. And we get these pineapple fajitas. Next time when I'm prepared, I might just broadcast right from in there. So
I love it.
These cheesehead tacos, yeah.
Yes, Andrew, the cheesehead tacos. It's funny because Glenn and I always say that like Taco Bell's our unofficial sponsor. Like, yeah. So Taco Bell is always welcome on here. But this week I got, and feel like we've been having these a lot lately. Our office staff really likes them, so we keep getting them. But they're what they say on the menu that they're rolled tacos.
I think I've seen you have that before on here.
Yeah, they're a popular thing, but the audience likes to get very technical with me and say these aren't tacos, they're taquitos or whatever they are. However, the menu we bought them from says they're rolled tacos, so I have to just respect their wishes and refer to them as the proper terminology.
I would have probably said taquito, but whatever. I if it tastes like a taco or delivers like that, I think you'll be fine. Anything in a Mexican restaurant is usually good. Mm-hmm. And that goes for margaritas too, which I probably should have had one before coming on.
Margaritas are. Galen always says that we should have Margarita Monday.
Well, then we'd probably have not such a typical Tuesday then, huh?
Right.
Taco Tuesday would be a little bit hungover, perhaps, with Margarita Mondays sometimes.
Right. Terrible Tuesday.
There you go.
But so there's a couple of things that I wanted to kind of touch on today, Zach. And so first thing I wanted to talk about was the summit, the Six-Figure Medicare Agent Summit.
Yes.
A lot of you guys that are watching this or watch the replay of this will have already heard about the summit as of now. But if you haven't, we want to bring you some awareness of it. So the Six-Figure Medicare Agent Summit is going to be next June on June 10th and 11th. in Salt Lake City, Utah. It's going to be a conference unlike any conference, in my opinion. It's going to have a lot of really fantastic speakers. It's got really the dream team lineup, from the Galen Hendricks of the world to the Justin Brocks of the world to
Danielle Uncle Robert.
Yeah, Danielle Kunkel, Roberts, Boomer Benefits, Justin Thomas, Tyler Reese, Glenn Shelton, Tracy Lonesberry, Joanna Wyckoff. There's just a multitude of amazing people. Lester Kahn with Agent Pipeline. So there's going to be some great people that are going to be taking the stage and speaking. And we really hope all of you guys can make it. Glenn Shelton has personally promised to give 10 free leads away at the first 100 ticket members that enroll and commit to come into the conference. So
I'll take my leads then.
Yep. Zach and Danny.
20, Danny is coming too. So
yeah, exactly. I mean, that's exactly it. So you guys are going to get your free leads because you guys, got in on the first day, definitely within the first 100 people. So
had to be there. Wouldn't miss it for the world.
One thing I wanted to ask you, Zach, because you've gone to a lot of events this year. What has been your impression on what you've been able to walk away from events? I know we kind of talked about that on the 8% video, but maybe if we could just rehash that just a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing, I hate to come back to it, has been the relationships, because I wouldn't be as close to you or Justin Brock or getting to know Danielle Kunkel Roberts or Sandra Gebhardt. I see you commenting. I got to meet her at 8%. That was amazing. I loved when we would do those happy hours during the early stages of the pandemic, and it allowed us to have a little bit more of a familiarity with each other outside of the formal setting that is our groups. But I think the biggest thing is really getting to know a person, much like I went from being a field sales agent, of course, to adjusting to more of the phone or the telesales. And I miss the interaction with the clients. I miss either sitting across from them in their home or in an office setting. And I think I needed that. So like pandemic or not, I was going to get to whatever I could to try to learn and grow and get some time with people who are either at a level where I want to get to, or people who have been where I am and can relate. Like Lee Wilson, somebody that I got to meet at 8%. And he and I shared a little bit of my story. He's like, oh my God, that's where I was. And it was great to hear, because now I'm like, okay, I got somebody I can follow who's already been where I am and looking at doing some of the same things. So
right.
You can't get that just from a group or even a Zoom call usually. So that's my biggest thing.
Yeah, I think you hit it right in the head. There's only so much interaction you can get from talking to somebody on a thread or on the other end of a keyboard. I feel like, and I think doing the video calls and the Zoom calls and things like this is probably the next step above that. But there's nothing quite like being face to face with somebody and being able to, look them in the eyes and, be able to literally reach out and touch them and, really having that in-person communication and contact. I felt like there's really nothing like it, and I felt like for the years that I haven't been going to events, I felt like I'd missed out for years. Yeah. And so I'm glad that I got to go to as many as I did this year. And, you and I got to see each other at 3 different events this year, which was amazing.
Been seeing a lot of you. Yeah.
Yeah. You're pretty soon you're going to get tired of me.
We got to vacation together in beautiful Tupelo.
Yes.
Where I somehow contracted pneumonia of all things.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
But I made it through. There was no way I was leaving behind the agency with all the stuff that Justin and the Gurus team were sharing and stuff. And, being able to hang out with you and the other, Jackie was there, of course. Yeah. She was great. And that was a more intimate event. And I think that's what I'm really looking forward to with Six Figure Medicare Agent, the summit. And with, I know Medicare Con is growing, but we got to both be at the first one back in February. And it was definitely more intimate, but 8%, my God, Cody, you and your team blew the roof off that place. I literally don't think they're going to fit there in next year or anything, right? Because I don't know how the fire marshal would approve of it. They'd have to put more suites in around up top, or maybe they'll need like the theater seating or something. But that was incredible, but different type of event, right? So
Yeah.
And for me, I mean, I hadn't been to events since I was with Northwestern Mutual or Mass Mutual, and those were like the internal ones where you're with the other people at the organization, just not the same. And
Right, for sure. Like I remember I talked to somebody who's a mutual friend of ours. I won't say their name, but I think it was last year, kind of in the heart of the pandemic, and I had never been to 8% Nation before. I also had never been to the Medsub Conference before, still haven't. But I was talking to them, and they were talking about how they were going to go to 8%, and they were also going to go to this Medsub Conference. I was like, oh, the Medsub Conference, that sounds like it'll be cool, just like the name, and the reputation of how many people go to it every year. And what he told me is he's like they're two completely different things. He's like 8% is the greatest party on earth, and the Medsub Conference is probably a little bit more boring, maybe a little more dry, and I feel like one thing that Cody's done such a great job about is, he's made it really sexy, really fun, like very attractive to go and spend 2 to 3 days in a hotel, very nice hotel, sit in a conference classroom style and learn about the insurance business.
And not only that, just drag us all to what felt like the sun for us Northerner folk, being in Dallas in July. And when you've got such fair skin, you can't step outside too long or you will get burned, even with some SPF on. So, but I can't wait till next year, wherever it is. I don't know if it was officially announced, but we didn't care. We got our tickets. So 3 events on the books for next year for us already. And my wife, she was a first timer going to an event. She never had anything like that when she was a teacher. And it honestly, as a new agent, even though she's in a call center and stuff, it changed her complete outlook on the business and how to grow and her career. So much so that I think some of her management was kind of like, so are you going to work with your husband or staying with us here at this particular large carrier? And she said, no, I'm not going anywhere. We had this booked before she, of course, made the career change. So if you're new and or a newer agent or you haven't been to one, I would recommend before you form an opinion, go to one that's maybe closer to you, or maybe it's more affordable. Don't spend a ton of money trying to get a fire ticket if you've never been to one and that's out of your budget at 8%. I mean, obviously it's worth it, but just go. Then you can give your judgment and whatever, right? And
yeah, absolutely. Like
I think that's the fairest way to go about it.
I think I heard Nick Frumpkin say, and Nick has been very not positive towards the conferences, and that's fine. He's entitled to his opinion. I really like Nick. I think Nick's a great agent and a great person. But I think he said something that I did find very insightful and probably very true. Like if you're a brand new agent, like you said, don't spend your last dollars going to a conference. Get a general admission ticket, get the lowest range ticket you can possibly get. If you're going to a conference that have different levels like that, you can, or even just watch a live stream, for $100 or something like that. I mean, you don't have to go all out with a fire ticket, a diamond ticket, whatever the conference is really kind of pushing for their main stage ticket. But at the very least, I think Pete says it best, get in the room, get in the room in some kind of capacity. And I think good things will happen for you. You don't have to sit front row though, and pay 10 grand or whatever it's going to cost you, 5 to 10 grand. If you don't have 5 to 10 grand, like that's just not a smart business move, even if, it might seem that way because of all the hype about something.
Yeah. And that's the thing too. You could be on that lower end ticket of any of these events, whatever it is, general admission, right? And still bump into a Galen Hendricks or somebody that you might look up to, that has been in the industry for a long time and has experience with something that you want to ask a personal question or introduce yourself even. And the next thing you know, you're having conversations during the after party with DKR about Game of Thrones and things. And you're like, this is surreal. But all that comes because you got in the room and you were there. Now, obviously the parties and all that, that's fine. But being able to go to breakout sessions, I mean, you put one on. I went to Josh Young's. I went to Nate Offert's. Leslie just crushed hers. It was incredible. I was like a bodyguard in her room because people were trying to just get in that door and stuff. I mean, she could have filled the ballroom, I think. So, I mean, being there for those kind of things, but also going to dinner with different people and interacting with people that you don't necessarily get to have true interactions with is really what's amazing. and how you really start to build these relationships. And for the most part, you can build these relationships with these people without worrying about getting recruited or, having some underlying motives. Most of the people there are there to learn and interact and grow.
Right. Yeah, and even the big time people too.
Yeah.
The big time people are there so that they can take something back, right? And they can rub shoulders with other big time people and kind of learn some of the tricks of the trade that they're using to implement into their business. So I feel like, at the end of the day, everyone's there is just people. They're just people just like you and me, and they're just like everybody else. And they just, if you approach them, if you don't really have much of an agenda and you just, want to be like, hey, I'm a big fan. I appreciate your work. Like, that's flattering.
Yeah.
Like someone comes up to you and they acknowledge something you've worked really hard at, or whatever it might be, whether it be a piece of content, their business, or whatever the case might be. People are going to feel good about that. They're going to be more probably open to having a conversation with you, and you might be able to take a nugget away from it. And that nugget could transform your business. It could really be as simple as something like that, I feel.
I completely agree. And you don't know what you might get from the speakers until you're there. And yeah, I watch YouTube and motivational stuff and those kind of things from home. And even if I watch it on my good stereo in the basement, crank up the speakers and get on the elliptical or the treadmill and really try to motivate myself, it's not the same as actually being in a room with seeing Eric Thomas motivate the room, or Inky Johnson telling his story. I looked over, my wife was, she brought to tears by Inky. And having those experiences could give you an idea that you might jot down and take home with you. Or if you're paying enough attention, you might just figure out what the speaker's talking about, interrupt the person putting on the event, and go get $1,000 from them if you're paying enough attention. I don't know who would do such a thing, but
I don't.
But I believe one of the things you took away from 8% was six-figure Medicare Agent Summit, right? That was one of your big things you brought back. So that's a huge idea, and I consider you a pretty big deal too.
Well, thank you, Zach. I appreciate that. And the feeling's mutual, by the way. You were definitely one of the first people that came to my mind when I was like, okay, Glenn's not here. I need someone to step in and help me do the show, because if it was just me, it'd be boring. I think people get enough of me. And you were one of the first people who came to my mind. So the feeling's mutual.
Okay.
I think definitely for me, the biggest takeaway I had, the biggest light bulb moment I had sitting in the conference was, we should do our own conference. And, I think it's amazing. Like, I talked to someone today and they're like, I can't believe how fast you put this thing together. Cause they're like, 3 weeks ago or whatever, you were just kind of batting an idea around, and they're like, you got a venue, you got a full lineup of speakers already. you got a bunch of sponsors, and we've sold about a third of the tickets already. And I think the main thing is, if I hadn't gone to 8%, I don't know if I ever would have put that. I don't think I ever would have connected the dots, and had that light bulb moment to what I feel like we should do this. We can do this. I don't know if it would have ever happened, because the thought really had never crossed my mind up until that moment. And those are the kind of things that happen when you get there in person. It's not the same thing as watching from like a phone screen or a computer screen.
Well, and you and I talk a lot. I don't remember you ever mentioning an idea like that to me. Not that you might not have had one. So, for you to come up with that and to be able to put it together, like you said, I was also like, holy crap. Like, how long have you been thinking about this? And you said, it's what I took away from 8%. I'm like, what? But, I will say, and this is something I shared this with Andrew Strange when I sat in for Chris Weir on the Gildy podcast, Good Idea, Let's Do It, when Chris couldn't make it one time. And this was just a couple weeks ago. It really helped myself kind of reset and refuel and recharge my mental health with being in the room around my peers who I really respect, I look up to, I love interacting with, even if I don't work directly with. You and I have no contracts together. We talk a couple times a week, but that relationship's there because we like talking about the business, and then we can get off subject and talk about life stuff and family and things. But it helped me to really rejuvenate myself, but also like I deal with a lot of anxiety. I come from a family of very hardworking blue collar folk that aren't really necessarily the entrepreneurial type. And maybe they, don't have the same mindset. A lot of it comes back to mindset for me of abundance versus scarcity, right?
Yeah.
And when I'm in that room, there is so much abundance. Like there is, when you see Pat David telling the story, there's no ceiling in that room. Of course there is, but speaking metaphorically.
Right.
He's a kid from, what was it, Iran, right? Who came over,
right.
and I mean, now look at how successful he is. And it's not just that level, that's the extreme, but you look at some of the other people and what they came from and the way they go about their day, the way they go about their life. That was huge for me because I was going through not necessarily a depressive state, a little bit. Sometimes I've dealt with depression. A lot more of it comes in the form of anxiety. And I realize there's a whole bunch of different forms of mental health that aren't talked about enough, but those are the big ones for me. And I am not on SSRIs because I found that actually kind of hurt my mental health worse. That made me more numb and depressed by going onto a pill like that. So I deal with it through different mediums, whether it be something like going to an event like this and getting around people and resetting, or motivation. I deal with it from, reading books that I love and things like that. But also sometimes I have to remind myself that it's okay to do the things I enjoy that I kind of put to the side when I started my business. Like I grew up loving playing Nintendo, and, for a couple of years there, I hadn't played any video games. And I'm like, I'm in my 30s. I own a business. I can't play video games. But quite honestly, Danny and I discussed it when I'm like, I'm going to go buy a Nintendo Switch and Legend of Zelda. And we did. And this was earlier on in my business. And it was something that honestly helped me escape because I could go play this game called Breath of the Wild and kind of escape in the world, right? Now, I haven't played it lately. Maybe I need a dose of that, but I got a lot of energy from 8%. So I think that's something that's not talked about enough, is being around the right mindset and around the right people.
Yeah.
And, Justin's created a great culture that we both got to see when we were down there, but that doesn't mean that every office or environment's going to be like that, right? And what are you surrounding yourself with daily?
Yeah, I think that's all so true, and I think it's a great segue into kind of the main topic, really, which is mental health that we wanted to talk about today. And I feel like when I watched your video with Andrew, I thought it was so important to really get that out in the open and talk about it. And I think it's something that all of us deal with, whether people want to admit it or not, right? People want to be macho. People want to be strong and look at me, I can handle anything. These shoulders were built to hold whatever, like all this stuff that people say. And I feel like everybody has some kind of definitely, mental hurdles and issues that they have to deal with. And there's a lot of taxation mentally that comes with being a business owner of any kind. I was talking to somebody literally in the last couple of weeks, and, they were like, they scheduled a phone call with me. They wanted to talk about picking up contracts, and they ultimately ended up not doing that, which is fine. Never any obligation. But, he was like, I'd love to be you. I'd love to be where you're at. Just was very fanboying me, which is, I appreciated. But I was like, I don't, and, I got kind of real with him for a second. I was like, I don't think you'd want to be me. Like, if you saw everything that goes on a day-to-day basis that I have to essentially deal with and tackle, I'm like, I don't think you'd want to be me. I'm like, it's not fun to be me a lot of days. And people just don't want to hear that, right? That's not going to sell. It's not going to promote things well, but like it's true. And I feel like it's something that needs to be talked about, because I feel like it's something we all go through on a recurring basis.
And I realize that there's a stigma with mental health. It's something I've never worried about or felt really directed by, but many men do feel that. or they come from a family where their dad or their grandfather didn't talk about those things. Like, you just stuff your feelings down and move on with your day, right? And I've certainly tried to do that, but I've also tried the opposite, where maybe I go see a professional, a therapist, and I'm done talking. I'm talking with somebody who's an unbiased third party, and I can just kind of let it all out, right? Whether it's anger, frustration, whatever. And that has helped, but it's not, it's a Band-Aid for a bullet wound. It's not the cure. There is no cure, really. Right. And I think it's more about learning how to manage it and being able to, day in, day out, put yourself in a position to be successful, but also to keep yourself in a good state, whether that's through exercising in the morning and then enjoying maybe time with your spouse or your kids. And then you go off to the office and you get what you have to get done, and you have it laid out for the day from the day before, and you have your goals set and all your to-do lists. And then you get to go home and enjoy stuff, right? But for instance, and Danny would corroborate this, I woke up at about 1:30 this morning, and I was dreaming about work, so I was very, not in a very deep sleep. And I just started composing an email of things I had to get done today and the next few weeks before AEP. And for some reason, it was working its way into my subconscious, and I was dreaming about it, and it caused me mental health all the way into my sleep. And I was up from about 1:30 till about 5, or maybe 4:30 or 5, fell back asleep till about 6:30. And then I had to get up because I was subbing at my old BNI group this morning. And, so, I mean, that's another thing we have to deal with. And I know you deal with this because you're one of the hardest workers in the room, if not the hardest. It's lack of sleep, lack of self-care, lack of family time. You and I had a great conversation one time about making time for Stormy and for Violet. And I know how hard you work, and they obviously appreciate it, but we don't know how long we have, right? I lost my stepdad to pancreatic cancer at 55. My birth dad is, at 64, he had a hemorrhagic 2 ischemic strokes and went into long-term care and things. It's like, that stuff could happen to us when we were younger too, but you got to focus on that balance. And I hate that work-life balance thing, but you got to find it for you, because otherwise that's when I find my mental health really starts to suffer, is because I'm not in control as much. And I'm feeling like my to-do list is exceeding what I can actually get done in a day or a week or those kind of things. So I don't know. I felt okay opening up with Andrew and with others, and I hoped it would create a dialogue. And, it kind of has. Some people have reached out and things, and I'm not necessarily looking for an answer or for looking to people to come to me, but I want them to know they can.
Right.
And imagine hearing, like, you think about the panel we saw, Danielle, Uncle Roberts, Galen, Taylor, Medicare Bob, they were up there on the panel. People don't think about all the things that they had to go through day in and day out to get where they are. And I guarantee you that amongst the 4 of them, there were some mental health struggles that were in there. Am I good enough? Can I do this? Can I really achieve these things? Some self-doubt, some anxiety, some depression, whatever. Probably a mix, a potpourri of all of it, right? And if that were something maybe that were discussed on more of the grand scale, or maybe amongst the higher ups who've been through it, maybe people who are starting out or the younger or newer agents would feel a little bit more normal going through some of that stuff. Because I know it's something that I've talked to other newer agents about some of these things, and they're definitely going through it, especially those who have been or haven't been self-employed before and are coming from the workforce and trying to manage your own time. That can be a beast in its own.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I feel like there's two things that come to mind when you say that. Is like, the first one is making that transition from being an employee, where somebody's always directing you, always telling you what to do, always, essentially making sure that you have your tasks and you're guided almost, in a direction, like almost like, someone through a maze or a mouse through a maze, to the point where you don't have that and it's on you. It's a huge transition for people that I feel like a lot of people really have a difficult time making that transition. I feel like, and I'd love to get your thoughts on this, Zach, because with the Facebook groups, I'm obviously a big advocate for the Facebook groups. I adore the Facebook groups. I spend an unhealthy amount of time in the Facebook groups. I run one.
Don't we all?
Live streaming in one. And however, I feel like, and I've talked about this with several other people over the last year or so, is like, I feel like one negative aspect of the Facebook group is people fall into the trap of comparing themselves to other people. And it's a dangerous game to play, because what a lot of people don't realize is, like, somebody might come into a group and say, okay, we did, here's my numbers for this week. It's like 150, 200 policies or something like that. But behind the scenes, there might be, I was literally just talking to someone about this yesterday. Behind the scenes, there might be 5, 6, 7 LOA agents that are writing under this person's name. And but an agent at home that might have done 20 apps that week and had a great week, by the way, is comparing themselves and not realizing that they had a great week and being like, I suck, and they don't get to enjoy those victories that they had, and I feel like that happens. That's a game that is a dangerous one. And I feel like it's a trap that's so easy to fall into, because everybody puts on social media how great their lives is, but
it's the online highlight reel. I believe I've heard it called.
Right. And nobody's going to put any challenges. I mean, maybe somebody might put up a challenge like, pray for me for this, pray for my family member, that kind of thing. But like, for the most part, like you said, it's an online highlight reel. And I feel like the groups, that is a definite challenge that a lot of agents face, is seeing all the big time numbers that are put up in there, not having the context a lot of times, and falling into that trap of beating themselves up. Even if they are doing spectacular, they don't even know it.
Yeah. I mean, really, it's simple. People have said it. People have heard it. Stop comparing yourself to others. I mean, we hear it when we're kids, right? Like, don't compare yourself to this family. It's called, Dave Ramsey always says, keeping up with the Joneses, right? That's an old phrase from probably way back in the day that our parents or grandparents would say. You don't want to compare yourself to them, because it only leads you down a dark place, right? Because you don't know what goes on behind it, but also you don't know what their story is or their situation. And if you at least focus on what you can control, I tell my wife this, I tell myself this, I tell my agents this, focus on what you can control and what you can do to beat yourself yesterday, or to, better yourself, or however you want to phrase it, and be in a position where you're competing with yourself. Or if you keep really good track of things, compare year to year. What did you do last year? Most corporations, right? We are self-employed. We are in charge of our own company. May not feel like it sometimes, one-man shop, but most companies will say, okay, what did we do last year in first quarter or second or third, right? Or, they have their different earnings periods, and they'll be able to track their numbers for what they did during a given week. And they'll be able to even sometimes track it over a certain, let's say 5-10 year period, what they've done on that day. Maybe the short week after the short week of Thanksgiving is traditionally a great week, Monday, Tuesday, and then Wednesday just drops off, and they can track the analytics. A lot of people aren't going to do that, I realize, but it's something you can do, and it's tangible because it's data based, right? So if you really want to get into it, you can go the nerd route like I like to. I like numbers and spreadsheets and analytics, but I have to sometimes remind myself that living in Wisconsin, of course, any of the northern states know what this is: seasonal affective disorder. It's winter depression, right? Basically from around mid-November through, depends on the year, but April or May, it's pretty damn cold here, and there's a lot of snow and those kind of things. Well, you live here. You got to figure out a way to get over that.
Right.
Buy yourself a Happy Light, or find some really good indoor hobbies, or get really good at skiing and snowmobiling, or whatever you enjoy freezing your butt off out there, and find something to do. But you're in control of that too, right? So, for us as business owners, especially when you're starting out, you've got to control your day or it will control you. And for somebody going from being told, hey, I need you here at 7:30 in the morning, you're going to stay till 5. We're going to give you a half hour to eat lunch, and you get 2 15-minute breaks at this time and this time. Going into self-employment can seem like both a gift and a curse, right?
Right.
Because, oh my God, I have all this time. I can go on vacation when I want. I can do this. I can do that. But can you really? Have you earned the right to go golfing on a Wednesday afternoon because it's sunny? or should you be grinding and working your butt off because you don't have the business built to where it should be, or what you need to pay your bills and those kind of things, or grow to where you want to be, right? Not saying not to take off and go golfing, but if you're going to do it, make sure it's not going to hurt your business or
Right.
hurt your mental health, right?
Right. Like I feel like it's one of those things where like, you have, let's say you have a mortgage, let's say, you're married, you have an office that you're in a lease for, whatever the case might be, like, could you taking that day off to go golfing, could that be the difference of you having your bills paid at the end of the month or not?
Yeah.
And for some people that's reality, and I think in our business it's an interesting thing because you get to a certain place, right, where maybe you have 8, 10, 9, 10 grand a month in renewals coming in, and there's a level of comfort there, right? There's a level of cushion there. There's a level of complacency, almost is maybe the word that can be there. And then I feel like, I see people go in two different directions. Either people will usually just at that point take their foot off the gas, rest, relax, maintain, service their clients, that kind of thing, take on the occasional referral, and they live a great life. Then there's the people that are trying to maybe, instead of taking their foot off the gas, put their pedal to the metal a bit more. I think, in my opinion, the two most difficult elements I've ever dealt with in business is getting started and making the first 100,000, and then trying to scale up to the next point, right? Like once you're at, $150, $250, or whatever the case might be, trying to get up into that next category and that next trajectory is, it's a difficult thing, and it's easy to put a lot of pressure on yourself, as a business owner, to kind of meet those goals and trajectories. It's easy to do. It's easy to really beat up on yourself, and really have a negative self connotation of yourself, because you have this goal for yourself, and it's so huge and it's so large, and if you don't meet it, you're going to be disappointed. You don't want to be disappointed in yourself. It's interesting because I feel like so much of this is the way that we see ourselves and the way that we see our goals, and the way we want others to see us, almost.
Yeah. Well, I don't think almost. I think you're right on, because internally, people, they have this desire to want to be seen in a good light, right? Most people. I'm not talking about the terrible people out there, but most people want to be seen in a good way, or they want to be respected by their peers, or those kind of things. I mean, that's just, I think that's part of, being, it's in our human nature, and that's okay. But it's when you allow that to distract you from what's really important to you and your family, and what's most important. Because although you mean the world to me as a friend and a peer, and I love our conversations and working together and stuff, what I have to deal with at home, or you have to deal with at home, doesn't really have an impact on each other.
Right.
So, I mean, I know I can come to you and talk about stuff, and that's huge to have that. But I'm not concerning myself. Am I doing enough to keep Christian happy?
Right.
Or
Right.
am I doing enough to keep this friendship going, or those kind of things? I mean, obviously you don't want to be disrespectful to your peers and your friends, but I think what the thing I'm really getting at is that you want to focus on what's going to be able to keep you in a good state of mind. And for me, that's something I've struggled with for many years because of self-employment.
Yeah.
And it was often due to worrying about, am I doing enough to compete? Like when I was in more of a captive environment, am I doing enough to compete and stand out with these other agents? Am I pleasing my bosses? I mean, there's probably agents out there, like I work with Justin Brock. Am I doing enough to please Justin? Like, Justin, are you happy? But like, that's not something I'm sitting here concerning myself, but I could see how people are obviously going to have that be something internally that they have to deal with. And I think until you recognize that and you address the things that are causing issues, you're not really going to be able to overcome them. until you know what they are. And you have to be honest with yourself and most likely talk about it with your spouse or somebody in your world that's important to you.
Yeah.
And that might be, like I said, it might be just discussing it with your peers because they know what you're going through. I certainly do. And like I've said before, people are welcome to come to me if they need it, because I certainly appreciate the ones who've opened up and let me come to them. So,
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think what you said, something you said there was so, important and spot on, is like, you need to make sure that you're making time for the most important thing, and that's for most people going to be their family. Like for you, it's Danny, it's your loved ones, it's your friends,
and our dogs.
Yeah, like
we don't have kids yet, but you're right. Yes, and she is number one. She is a great supporter, but she's also somebody that I do worry about. Am I doing enough for her? So you hit it right on the head there.
Yeah, and in my world, it's definitely my wife. It's my wife Stormy. It's my daughter Violet. It's those, and sometimes that there's been plenty of days and nights since my daughter's been born where I'll come home and I'll bring my work home and I'll be on my laptop till like midnight, and I know my wife doesn't appreciate it, and so that has been a strain on our relationship, and I've had to really teach myself. Or not really teach myself. I've been encouraged by people like you. Chris Weir has given me a good talk about it once or twice, about being present in the moment, right? Like if you're going to be there, be all the way there. That's one thing that Chris told me. And it's something that I really have strived to get better at. Put the phone down, close the laptop. It can wait, and it's still a battle. I'm not perfect, like I'm definitely not perfect. And I fall into that trap at times, but I feel like, if you can really put some time towards being all the way there in the moment when you're doing, activities with your loved ones and things like that, that can be a great sense of relief. It can be a great sense of, I guess, fulfillment for you. So that way, when you do pick the work back up, it doesn't feel like it's just a nonstop grind and a burn all the way through.
Yeah, I have to agree with you there, because when you take a break for something you enjoy, and even if you came home, played with Violet for a bit, had dinner with Stormy, didn't have your phone on, your computer, anything, and maybe she turns in, little one goes to bed, and you hop back on and work for a few hours, you're going to probably have more energy and feel revitalized about your work. And she's not going to be mad at you because she's sleeping,
Right.
even
Right.
if the laptop's glowing and you're in the dark or whatever in bed, but you prioritized, and at that point you really got to prioritize yourself too. It's like, don't stay up all night or wake up in the middle of the night like me and then just work through the night, because I kept telling myself I need sleep, I've got long days ahead. But if you find that whatever works for you, everybody's a little different, right? We don't have little ones, at least not yet. We want them, but so it's not something that I have any place to give advice on for anybody. But I'm sure those that do have kids, they have their routines and those kind of things. So if your little kiddos are in bed by 7 and it's pre-AEP or into AEP and you want to have a little time with them, well, try to spend that time from 6 to 7 helping them get ready for bed, I guess, those kind of things. That's what I would do anyway.
Yeah.
And then I might run some appointments on the phone afterwards in the home office or something. I'm not kidding. Like that's how I would try to find some balance, because as long as you're enjoying your work still and it's fun and you're not to the point where you're burnt out, then you can find that balance. But if you're burnt out and you're not performing at your best, or you're not putting your all into each appointment, then you really got to reevaluate your time. And are you putting too much time in, or do you need a mental health day? That's why they incorporate them at companies now. Large companies don't just have sick days, they have mental health days built in there for a reason, because sometimes you just need to check out and play some damn video games. Sorry.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
That's how I feel. And actually, Danny has had a day when she was a teacher and she just had to get out of there. And I came home from my office and she's on the couch staring up at the TV, playing Legend of Zelda. And I'm like, you all right, dear? Didn't expect to see you. And honestly, it was a great surprise because I was like, good for you taking care of your mental health too, because she's always taking care of me and mine. So you got to reciprocate, right?
Absolutely. Like, so one thing I started doing this year, and I haven't wavered, like I haven't missed, which I'm like, I pat myself on the back for it because it's very hard for me. So on every week on Saturdays, because I'm an alien. I go into the office on Saturday. That's when I usually film the videos that all of you watch, and I hope you enjoy. That's when they get created, when I'm by myself here in the office. And so one thing I've been doing, though, is making it a point to be very efficient with my time, get done, come home early, and I'll usually give my wife the entire evening off. And I'll take the baby, I'll take our daughter, and we'll go do something fun together, just me and her. And my wife, sometimes she goes and sees some friends, sometimes she goes to dinner, sometimes she goes to a movie, sometimes she just stays home and watches TV, like whatever the case might be, but it's her time, to do whatever she wants to do. And there's been times this year where I've been sick and I just didn't want to take over baby duties, but I've really made it a point because I feel like she needs that, because for all the crap and stress that I go through on a day-to-day basis, I can't compare it to what she goes through because she does more at home than I could ever dream of, and so I feel like it's so important to have that support system at your house and to have that, that support system with your spouse, and you provide that support system for your spouse and they provide it to you. And I feel like, none of us have everything completely figured out. We're just trying to do the best job we can, and we try to help each other.
Well, and I got to think back to before I knew Danny, reflecting on what you said right there. I mean, I didn't necessarily always have somebody to go to or rely on for things when work would get stressful. In fact, I think the thing I might do would be to turn to going out when I was younger with friends and thinking, oh, I'll go out and get my stress out at the bar or the pub or whatever, or going to, when I lived in Milwaukee, going to a Brewer game, and that of course involved drinking usually too. So it was an escape, but not a healthy one. Whereas now we might just sit down at the table, have supper, and talk about our days. And it's so enjoyable hearing, especially more so now that she's in the industry as well, and understands all the stuff I'm talking about. But it's so enjoyable just to share that time together. And it's just us, and the phones aren't ringing, and, we're focused on each other. And usually we're distracted only by our puppies trying to take some food from us. But I think that's so cool. And I'm so proud as a friend to hear that you are doing that for her, because I have many friends who are stay-at-home parents in either role, mom or dad. And that is certainly a full-time job. And as much as most of us love to be around kids, I don't know if I could be around children nonstop and not be able to escape. So for you to give her that time, and that can be when she recharges her batteries. And, I don't care if it's, if it is a situation like that where, she's maybe a stay-at-home mom or whatever, or if you have a 2-parent working household, finding that alone time can be very valuable too. Not that Danny and I necessarily love alone time. We really enjoy each other's company, but, it might be something that I want to just go hang out and watch a guy movie or a guy show or something like that, or go see my buddies if I get a chance. And maybe she wants time with her sisters because she's got 3 of them. And or time with her mom. She's really close to their mom. And sometimes I want to go see my mom, but I just want a little mom-son time. I'm only child with her. So, obviously it's a little nice one-on-one time. So allowing for that, that space can be very helpful too, I think, to mental health, at least from my experience now.
Yeah.
Everybody's a little different. So you got to figure out what's best for you. But in any relationship, that's going to come down to good communication, right? Which I hate to keep coming back to it, but that's the thing about this mental health stuff that is unfortunate, because I have lost one really good friend and another friend to suicide in my life. Danny had lost several. She actually has the little semicolon tattoo on her wrist, basically signifying that their story is left untold, right? Or
Yeah.
unfinished. And, I've never been to that point, thankfully. I may have been to a point where I didn't care if I kept, like, oh, if I get hit by a bus tomorrow, whatever, that kind of depression or that kind of dark place, but not to the point where I've ever said to myself, I'm going to take my own life or something. That's never been something that I've even considered. So, but I know that people have gotten to that point, and thankfully they've stopped themselves, but you got to be willing to not only, open up if you need help, but you've also got to be willing to embrace and accept and empathize, even if you don't know what to say. Be the shoulder to cry on, be the person to just listen and let somebody get everything out, and be there for each other, whether it's through friendships or relationships or those kind of things. I think back to, like I said, when I was younger, for those younger agents who maybe don't have a spouse yet or a serious relationship, you need to find someone, whether it's within your family, a sibling or a parent, or even find a mentor that you can open up to. I know with one of my agents, I am more than happy to open up to them. And I think that has helped by me sharing what I've gone through, my struggles, both in the business and the mental health and life. I'm very transparent as a person for sharing those kind of things that I've gone through. It's something that has helped them to feel more open to talking to me, not feeling like they're only need to be talking to me about business or what we're doing or, how are we producing, those kind of things. That I am a real person who has their back, and I have meaning in my life, and I want them to be able to look at me as both a business partner, a mentor, but also as a friend, somebody they can come to. I can take this hat off, excuse the hat here, and put on a different one and be like, all right, let's talk.
Yeah.
Life, not how many apps you're writing or whatever, right?
Right, exactly. Like, there's been so many occasions where, like, there'll be an agent that we work with here in Utah, let's say, and they're local, and I'll just hit them up out of the blue, be like, hey, you should let me take you to lunch, and I just want to see how you're doing, and just hang out. And I do my very best to not talk business on those lunches. Like, I just want to spend some time, show them that I care. And sometimes people really need that, like, you don't know what people are going through in their lives. You don't know. I mean, we all have struggles. We all have trials. We all have tribulations. Like, I think it's pretty safe to say that unless you're like, I don't know. I can't think of anybody, but
that's the thing. You can't even try to pick somebody out, because you could look at Robin Williams, who seemed like the happiest, the funniest, one of the funniest people ever. He took his own life. And one of my personal people that I love to follow was Anthony Bourdain, the famous chef who had the show No Reservations, then Parts Unknown, and he was on Travel Channel. Just a great narrator, great orator, and could tell a story like no other, while making you want to travel to Mozambique, Africa, or something, and try the local cuisine, crocodile or something, But he took his own life, and I was, I was like personally affected by that, even though I'd never met him, and I was just like, oh my God, like, he seemed to have this amazing life. What could have impacted him that would cause him to take his own life when he seems to have everything? So I don't think you can pull somebody out of nowhere, because you could look at, Jeff Bezos or whoever's the richest person in the world right now, I'm sure they have plenty of struggles. Just more money does not equal less problems, right?
Right.
What was it? More money, more problems, right? P. Diddy?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Another thing that's in that sometimes we start to deal with as well is like, I was on a conference call this morning about, AEP co-op money, and they're like, okay, so this year, we've got a total, we're doing X amount of dollars for your guys' group. We're going to need to see about X amount production. And the number might be so much higher than anything you've seen in the past. And you're like, oh my gosh, we got to hit these numbers. Now I'm very confident in our abilities and everything like that. But, I can see how those kind of expectations and that pressure can really weigh on a person, right? And they can really weigh on an agent. and especially an agency owner, that's trying to figure it all out, and they're like, hey, and we're going to help you out financially. We're going to help you out with some leads and some orders and things like that. And that's something that's very unique to our business as well. It's like the expectation, the production. They're like, we need to see this kind of production. And you really kind of feel, I mean, of course, as I feel like you probably should if you have someone help you financially, but like, you're like, you feel the obligation to kind of meet the expectations. And again, it comes back to, I'm sure it's a business thing in general, because people that run large businesses, I'm sure they have shareholders, partners, and things like that. Everyone's always having to appease somebody else in business, customers, clients, everything.
Yeah, but I mean, you have some, like I was having those conversations too today, recently, and I have some say over how much I believe or know that I can produce, and I can help set that parameter and that goal, but I can do it at a point where I am not putting so much pressure on myself or my agents or those things that if I don't come close, or if I fail, or I barely miss it or whatever, that it's going to impact me so negatively that I'm going to want to, crawl into bed for 3 days. Or
right.
Like, what I've learned in 13 years as an agent, and many of those years being very hard, not necessarily having the guidance or the leadership. Just I got in with an internship with Northwestern Mutual and thought I was going to be the bee's knees, thought I'd go on and get every securities license and all the alphabet soup after my name and all these things. and then really got smacked in the face by life, and like, wake up, realize this is not easy. Nothing worth having in life is easy. And it caused me to go through some real moments of like, is this really what I want?
Right.
And obviously I believe grinding this long, it's really what I want.
Right.
I will say that, I've worked at places as an employee, and maybe I'm not the best employee because it is a little difficult to tell me to show up at a certain time. I make a great salesman in those kind of roles, but telling me to show up at 8 and work till 5:30 and have this lunch at this time, go to the bathroom at this time and stuff, probably not the best thing to tell a very independent only child who also happens to be a stubborn redhead, right? Like, it just wasn't a good fit. But I learned that about me. And I know now, like, even if, let's say, something unexpected happens, knock on wood, and I have a terrible AEP and I don't come anywhere near my goals and things, I know that there's always opportunity tomorrow. Why? Because there's, well, what is it? Now it's more like 11,000 boomers turning 65 every day is what I've heard recently. There's 64 million people already on Medicare that I could go help and go rewrite. I mean, how many times do you come across somebody still that might be in their 70s and they're only on A and B and they got maybe a prescription drug plan, or they never got pitched on a supplement, or they fell through the cracks and never even were explained what Medicare Advantage was, and their supplement just kept going up. And like, they thought it was, oh, my brother's uncle's niece's cousin told me that's the worst thing since sliced bread, so I don't want to touch that. But then you actually explain, like, oh my God, I could have been saving all this time. I know that that's out there. I can go find it, and I can pick myself up by the bootstraps, a phrase my mom used to say, and dust myself off and go after it. But I also know that I have many tangible skills, and even if I were to either leave the industry or leave the broker world, I could probably pick up the phone. I mean, I know somebody who works for, one of the large carriers. I might be able to finagle my way into a job. There's always other opportunities. And just because let's say somebody comes in the industry and they become part of the 92%, right? We used to have our happy hours, 92% nation, rise up. And even if they fall into that category, it doesn't, so they might go on and be an amazing real estate agent or something. Maybe they were meant to sell houses and not insurance. I mean, insurance is not for everybody and can cause some serious mental health issues just from the rejection and feeling like it's personal, when in reality, it's just that some people really are just mean, or some people just really hate insurance and they put it off on you, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like,
you have to have the outlook that whatever happens production wise or requirements from carriers or your FMO or even your employer, it's okay, because there's always other opportunities, right? That maybe this isn't maybe this role is not for you, but maybe you'd make an awesome agent in an LOA model, right? Like that's what I think about is so cool about our industry is maybe you're not meant to be self-employed, but you'd be a really good operations manager for like Christian Brindle Insurance Services, or maybe you'd be an amazing internal marketer at an agent pipeline or an IFG, right? Or maybe you'd just really be a great agent who can write business all day in an LOA setting like you've had, or Justin, or so many others, right? And you'd be a great agent. You can still earn a great income, but you're not taking on the stress of being the owner and having to write everything. Like there's so much opportunity. That's why I hope anybody, if you're listening and you stayed on for close to an hour, first of all, I appreciate you for staying on with us. And thank you again, Christian, for having me here. But if you're in that position ever, don't just quit. That is not the way. And I'm not saying like, don't just quit that day. You might quit the industry, or you might quit being the broker side or something, but look for other opportunities. You have these amazing, powerful things called an insurance license that you can do so much with. You studied for them. You likely, most people pay for them up front or on their own, or, they put some skin in the game. And then you put all this time into learning all this gobbledygook of AHIP and marketing guidelines and CMS this and that. Take that and turn it into something. I mean, that's another avenue. I didn't think about that. Go, if you're in Washington or somewhere with a government spot, maybe you'd be a great compliance person. I mean, we need them. We don't necessarily, they're like the Tobies of our industry if you're an Office fan, but we certainly, we need them to keep us on our toes and protect us from any nefarious activity, right?
That's right. That's right. Good stuff, buddy. Good stuff.
Thank you. That felt like 15 minutes to me. So thank you so much. This was amazing. And like I said, if anybody did stay on or watch, I appreciate you for letting me talk and share my story, because I certainly don't feel like I'm anything special, but getting a chance to share it with your group and your followers means the world to me, Christian, because I hope it impacts even one person.
Yeah, absolutely. And I appreciate your time, and taking the time to come on and really save Taco Tuesday this week. Really is what you did. So I really appreciate you doing that.
I just wanted to help you guys out. You've both been so wonderful. And again, prayers and thoughts, Glenn, you and your family feel better. Lots of fluids and rest, right? I mean, take care of yourself and get back on your feet. And I hope to see you on this screen next week.
Absolutely. And Glenn is missed. But Zach, you were awesome. This was awesome. And I really appreciate your time. Guys, if you guys have any questions, if you watch the replay on this, and if there's anything you want to ask or start a dialogue about or have a conversation about, drop them in the comment sections. I'll do my best to reply. I'm sure Zach will see them as well. And yeah, guys, I just, I love what Zach's doing, in terms of opening up a dialogue about these things, the things that need to be talked about. And just understand, like we're all in this together. We all go through similar trials. We all go through similar things. And I feel like that's why, as a group, we are stronger together, not just people in this group, but people in the industry. We're strong together, and we can really band together and help us through tough times, because we all go through them. And none of us are Superman or Superwoman and Wonder Woman. And so we need to, except for Rebecca Davis, she's Wonder Woman, but
Wonder Warrior now, careful.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, I'm just saying, we don't want any of the comics going after her or anything.
Right.
Actually, it's funny you mentioned her name, because got my copy here of her
book.
And she
yes. I got it in my office in the other room.
Yeah. Well, I like to support my friends here, obviously, in the industry. Pete, if you're watching, I got Sling It back there.
Yes, Mr. Pete Fournier. Well, guys, thanks so much for tuning in and getting all the way to the end here. And Zach, thank you again for you taking the time and sharing all that you shared, and really kind of bringing a lot of this to the forefront. I think it's great and it's valuable, and we'll have to do it again soon with Glenn next time included. So, because I know he has some great thoughts on this topic as well.
Sure, I'd be honored, and I'll step my tacos up a little higher class next time. But thank you again, my friend. This has meant the world to be able to share this with you. And again, thank you guys for letting me share. And God bless everyone. Take care.
All right, guys. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week. Adios.